Hello everybody and welcome to the Just Passing Through podcast. I'm in the big smoke. For them of you watching on YouTube, let me just lift up my camera and turn it around. Yep, here I am. I'm in the middle of Tokyo now. I'm in a place called Nakano and I have just positioned myself in a corner of a graveyard, because it's the only really quiet place I can find to do this podcast. If you look around, let me just show you what I'm sat in front of there. You can see these graves here. Now, what you can see in front of you is these 4 sticks. Now, on those sticks, you get your death name. Yeah, I know, a death name. So what happens is, you walk around life as Mr. Darren Walsh. Hello, how are you? I'm Darren Walsh. And then when you decide to check a 7 or buy the farm or check out, what happens is they'll take your body away and you go off to a priest, and the priest will decide what your name is going to be off in the eternity. Now, you can pay for a high class name, or you can keep a low class name, but it's all about the cheddar. It's all about the cheddar. So I have no idea what a high class name is or a low class name is, but I'm guessing if you've got your family grave or gravesite in Nakano in Tokyo, where I'm sat right now, that all these names on these sticks are going to be high class names. The people who have got their ashes under these headstones here, if they were living, would probably be paying just as much rent as when you're living as when you're dead, because Tokyo, being Tokyo, is the most expensive place on earth. I think it is, but I'm sure there's places in Angola where the rents have gone up because of all this oil money. But Tokyo, and especially the area where I'm sat, and you go down to Azerbaijan, it's so expensive. It's so expensive. I know when I lived here, I lived in Tokyo for 3-4 years. So much fucking fun. It is so much fun in Tokyo, but you've got to pay for it. You've got to pay for your fun in this country. But I just dip in 3 days a week and then dip out, which is fine by me. Now, what I want to talk about today, I have now been back in Japan for, let me think, it's the 4th of September today. I got back in on 20-something, so I've been back in town just short of 2 weeks. Just short of 2 weeks. Now, when I got back into Japan, the first thing I did was jump on them scales. And when I jumped on the scales, I'd found out that I had banged on 5 pound, or just over 2 kilos I'd put on. 2 kilos in 2 weeks. Now, you've got to take into consideration, I tried to keep the sugar down to a minimum. I were eating lots of protein. I was still exercising. The fucking mosquitoes are getting me here. I was still exercising, but I wasn't getting as much exercise as I do when I'm in Japan. So I got on the scales. I had fucking 2.5 kilos. Where the fuck has that come from? And when you think, when you're going from the Japanese diet to the English diet, it's completely understandable, because on the hours that I were awake in England, I either had a piece of cheese in my hand, a piece of cheese in my mouth, or I was swallowing, you've guessed it, a piece of fucking cheese. I could not stop myself. And the thing is, in Japan, you don't get decent cheese. So the red Leicester, the crumbly cheddar, the Wensleydale, the fucking Wensleydale were just sliding down my throat and sitting in my stomach like a fucking lump of concrete. And it was glorious. It was glorious. And I worked for every one of them kilos, every one of them pounds that I put on. I put the effort in by just shoveling in the cheese. Now, for a person like me who through the 20s and the 30s were just slamming it on, I could not stop myself. I was a big, fat northern bastard. If you looked up big fat northern bastard in the 90s and the early 2000s, my picture would have been right there in the dictionary. And every time I go home, I vow to myself I can't slide back into my old habits. And after about 3 days, I slide into the habits, but with different foods. So going back, when I first came to Japan, I'd go back straight into the fish and chips, the curries, the booze, everything would just go in my mouth, the crisps, the chocolate, everything. Now going back this time, when you're a level-headed man in his 50s, I went nowhere near the sugar. I had to show an example to my kid who wanted to throw down the biscuit boost, the Mars bars, shit like that. I had to set an example for him, so he kept off it. So that's why I kept away from the sugar. But just the way that you walk around a supermarket, Morrison's is my supermarket in England, and I would walk around there and would find it extremely difficult to find healthy food. I mean, you walked in and you had the fruit and the vegetables. Now it's just thrown out there. There's no fancy packaging to it. The food that is good for you is just served as it is. They've picked the bananas from the trees, picked a bunch of bananas from the trees, and they've put it there in a tray, and there's your bananas. They're not packaged. Fucking mosquitoes are getting me here. They're eating on me. I've got no skin showing, but these mosquitoes are eating on me like I were eating on that fucking cheese. So all the healthy stuff is out front, and once you get past that healthy stuff, once you hurry past it, like I saw so many other people doing, you're into the bullshit time. Boss coffee, no sugar, no milk. Very healthy for you. You're into the bullshit, and I can see now it all it was completely clear to me why everybody's so unfit in the UK now. The stuff that is the worst for you, the processed stuff, the stuff full of sugar, the chocolate, the high trans fat stuff, it's like watching YouTube looking at that packaging. The cereals, Jesus Christ, you walk down a cereal aisle in the UK, it's like you've taken acid, especially when you walk down the aisle after you've come out of the fruit and the veg aisle. And you can see that they just, because it was the 6 weeks holidays, the supermarket were full of kids, and they're all there in that cereal aisle, and they're all there in the chocolate and the crisps aisle. My kid were running backwards and forwards, and then I reminded him that the year before he'd not been in the UK for an hour, for a day, and he was throwing up all over my dad's bathroom because of the bullshit that he'd eaten that day before. So I reminded him of that, and I said, look, I don't want you making a mess of your granddad's toilet again, and do you remember how sick you were? He sort of flicked back to that and asked me to get him something healthy. So we bought rice, and they cooked the rice, but it's just not the same as the rice that you get here. There's shit thrown in that as well. So everything that you're choosing is full of crap, so you can't really trust yourself. So basically, I ate stuff that didn't have anything added to it, which I found quite hard, and just I couldn't stop myself when it come to some of the stuff. I went to a party at my friend's house, and it was that buffet food that you get in England. Sausage rolls, meat pies, crisps. Couldn't stop myself. Could not stop myself. Non-alcoholic booze. Now I drink non-alcoholic booze when I go out with friends and family here. I will have a Asahi Zero. It's a non-alcoholic beer, and I can drink 2 or 3 of them, and the next morning, clear as a bell. Absolutely clear as a bell. Now, when I went to England, they've got a wider variety of it now. They're pushing it. It's a big part of the market. So I had 2 bottles of non-alcoholic cider, I had a Guinness, and then I had 3 bottles of non-alcoholic booze. I shit you not, the fucking next morning, I had a headache as if, just like I'd been drinking. Just like I'd been drinking. Now, I went back to the supermarket the next day, and I picked up the bottles that I'd drunk the night before, looked on the back. The amount of fucking bullshit that were in those drinks that I drank, I can fully understand now why I had a headache. It felt as if I'd been drinking full fat beer or full fat cider. I was rough, and I were no good until following morning. So even if you're drinking non-alcoholic booze in the UK, you're still going to be waking up as if you have drunk it. So just as a way of fitting in when you are in a boozer, you get the non-alcoholic stuff just to make you fit in the next day. You've got that hangover, you're finding it a bit rough at work, and you feel like shit. So you can't even have that. They adding shit to that. So about 3 days in, I was just eating meat, cheese, I stayed away from the bread, and salad. Oatmeal, full fat milk and fruit. So that is all that I've really been eating for 2 weeks. Got back here, like I said, I'd slammed on 2 kilos. Now, when I slammed on 2 kilos before, I would never lose it. I'd just keep adding and adding and adding to it. But I think in my mind now, I've got it in my mind, I've switched to my brain over this last decade, and I was able to get that off within the time I've been here. I jumped on the scales this morning, it's gone, thank God. Now, why I'm here up in Tokyo today is it's my first day back at work. Now, when you're working in the Tokyo schooling system as a self-employed fella, when it gets to July, they'll just say to you, right, on your way, Darren, I'll see you in September. So you've got 8 weeks. And like a child at the start of July, I'm thinking, well, this is going to last forever. This is going to last forever. And then you get 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and here we are today, my first day back at work. The day I've been dreading. And I've just finished now. I'm on my lunch break now, and I'm coming here and doing this podcast. Now, all that dread that I were worrying about coming back and working again is absolutely non-founded, because I'm smacking mosquitoes here like they're going out of fashion. I'm getting bit left, right and centre. Shut up, stop complaining, carry on. So I've just finished there, and I've probably had one of the best days of work I've ever had, because I'm coming back. I wasn't even in a bad mood, but coming back, the last 4 years of working with those other people, this would have been the worst day of the year. You've had 8 weeks, you've had 6 weeks with your family, you've had spent time doing really enjoyable things with the family, you've been laughing, having a good time, and then I were going back to those knobheads. And today, it's just been night and day. People are smiling, people have given me presents where they've been, people have been telling me where they've been going in Japan, recommending places like this, places like that, what they did, how they enjoyed themselves, and they've been giving me presents. The other place, morning, and then that were it. they wouldn't speak to you again until you came back after the winter holidays. Madness. Madness. And that's the thing. When I first started at this new place, I thought, oh my God, it's me. And within 2 minutes, oh, it's not me, it's them. Now, a story I heard of the person that I was working with, who was very, very unstable. I got fired in the December, and then he went in there in the January after I got fired, and then told them that he was too good. His statement was, I am too good for this place, I'm going. So he left in the January. Now, it seems like the people that they've hired are not too good. So I got a phone call 2 days ago asking me if I would like to go back. Imagine that. A place that you fucking hate has asked me to go back. There is one surviving member of that English department who was another fucking knobhead. And apparently she can't carry the water that she's being given. So she's having a rough trot of it. So they called me up, they've asked me to go back. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go back in there this week. I've got an interview again. They're going to tell me what they want me to do, and they're going to ask me to design their curriculum. I'm going to tell them, yeah, I'll do that. And then when they want me to start in April, I'm just going to tell them to fuck off. Childish, I know. Not a good example to set of a 53-year-old, but that is how shallow I am. Now, hopefully, no, not hopefully, they won't discover this podcast. I'm sure they won't discover this podcast. But I'm just going to tell you how it is. I'm going to say yes to everything, and then when it comes to turning up and signing on the dotted line, I'll put them off until the first day of school, and then I just won't turn up. Because that is how much I hold a grudge. I'm a very, very petty person, but fuck it, it's fun. So, without further ado, I'm happy with the job that I'm in. I hated the job I was in for 4 years, hated it. But for 4 years I got paid for doing nothing. I was more or less a consultant. Now I'm working with people I enjoy being around. I enjoy the place where I work. It's a bit of a ball ache coming up into Tokyo, but it's only 3 days a week and I'm getting the same amount of money as I was working 5. So from me, let me turn the camera around, and the dead that you see now, for those of you watching on YouTube. So from me and the dead, I bid you farewell. From one petty person to all you grown-ups out there, thank you very much for listening. Adios.